Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Writers Class. And yes, this is not going to be the And I Thought Ladies podcast. It still feels weird to say the And I Thought Ladies podcast because it's always been the women's case. Now it's the And I Thought Lady podcast. After 7 years, I said, you know what you should do? Name the podcast after the actual name of the podcast. I feel so ingenious right now. I'm like, it's like Albert Einstein level genius to do that.
I agree.
Anyway, I'm Mona. I want to introduce myself. High five to me and a little dance. And a little, okay, now I'm done. Okay. I've been dancing a bit too much today. I had a small emergency, so I grabbed some beer.
That seems right.
Put on some music, and I did some dancing. And then at 3:34, I went, shoot, I'm a little late. So now I'm here doing this interview. Anyway, we wrote books. So I actually do have wisdom to say. It's just written down on the pages. And I thought divorce was bad. And I thought being grown up was easy. If only I were me, a memoir in verse, foreign coffee, widow's web, and widow's debt. You can find those books wherever audiobooks are sold. And just in case you were wondering, what happened to the other 11 books? You can see those at www.andithoughtLadies.com, because there is where you get our 6 plus 11 books to equal 17 books. There you go, people. I know that's what you really wanted to do, was math in the middle of a podcast. But yeah, I think this is the time I'm going to try a little segue of you're not here to hear about me, but you're here to hear about our wonderful guest. Wonderful guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
I sure would. My name is Samantha Skal. I am a book coach and author, and I live on a houseboat. So those are 3 things.
You live on a houseboat?
I sure do. It's really fun. We see lots of birds.
I have always wanted to live on the houseboat. Does a houseboat travel?
It does not. Ours does not. There are some that do. Some of them have like little tiny motors on the back and you have to motor them around, but ours is permanently stuck to the dock.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
One more question about this. Because I've always wanted to live on a houseboat. In fact, people know this. And when I got married, I was like, they were like, oh, what are we going to rent? And I was like, I want to rent a houseboat. A houseboat for rent. And I really wanted to rent it. And then at that time, my husband, who eventually became my ex-husband, turns to me. But what happens when there's a thunderstorm?
It's a fair question.
You and ask, but what happens when there's a thunderstorm?
We just move around a lot. It's so weird. So, I mean, I grew up in California where earthquakes happen. And it took me quite a while to stop freaking out when the house moves underneath your feet, which is what happens when it gets stormy outside. But there's no danger. It's just, you just move a little bit. So yeah, it's all good.
Okay. This makes sense. Give me one. Nope, I'm good. So now that we talked about the houseboat, we should probably talk about, I don't know, books, editing.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Let's start with, first of all, y'all, as the narcissist here, I had to be like, I wrote in a book that she's in, or actually she wrote in a book that I'm in.
We wrote in a book together.
So do you want to talk a bit about like your chapter and what you wrote?
Sure. Yeah. So we were both in this book called The Launchpad. It's for beginning writers, and it sort of covers just general advice about how to get started in writing, which I highly recommend it. Everyone who participated is super cool. I've only talked to a handful of them. But my chapter was about building suspense and making the reader engaged with being a little scared in your chapters, which I think can apply to all kinds of genres, not just the scary stuff. So I write mysteries and thrillers, but it definitely applies to women's fiction, upmarket, any other number of places.
Exactly. I write the occasional suspense, so I definitely need to listen up closely to what you have to say. You don't also just write. You do.
Yes, I also coach. So yeah, I edit and I coach other people's work, which is super, super fun because it's really fun looking at works in progress. Like when we go into the bookstore and we buy a book or read a book or whatever, however you absorb books, listen to them, you're seeing the final product and you don't get to see kind of how the sausage is made. And I love getting in there and seeing how it's all made and helping people form their ideas and get them on the page. And so much of that deals with how you get suspense on the page, which deals with a lot of, interiority for the characters. And there's all kinds of other tricks, but that's the fun stuff. I really enjoy it.
As a coach, what are the 3 top things that you would tell people they need to know before they really sit down to write a book?
Oh, good question. So I would say the first thing is know kind of what your big story question is that you're asking. So every fiction book, probably it can be argued like every book ever, but we'll stick with fiction, has a story question. This is the reason that the reader is picking up the book. So it's like, what does the protagonist, like the POV character, want? Why do they want it? And what's stopping them from getting it? And so if you know that, you have kind of your hook and you can back into everything else and come up with all the backstory and all of that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that don't expect this just to come out of you in a perfect format. Like I think there's this beginner writer. I definitely was this way, where I thought I was going to be this like magical unicorn writer and just sit down and the whole book was going to come out perfectly and I'd get an agent and a book deal and everything would be great. It didn't happen like that because there are very few people in the world, if any, who can actually do that on the first try. And so be patient with yourself and keep going. And then I would say develop a steady practice, like just be ready to put in the work because it does take time. It's not something that just happens overnight, and be willing to learn and, just be open to understanding that there's stuff out there you don't understand yet. And that's okay. And nobody really is born knowing how to do this. And the best way to write a novel is just to write a novel and learn what you don't know.
And then keep writing novels.
And then keep writing them. Yeah. Get better as you go. Yeah.
And over. And I remember reading something that said like writers, what they do is they give themselves the hardest homework they've ever had in their life.
They sure do. Yep, they sure do.
And then they say the next time I'm going to be better at the hardest homework. And I was like, yeah, I don't like how you explained it, but it's so true.
It's so true. But that's that makes me depressed to think about it that way. Yeah. Nobody wants homework as we get to be adults, but it's kind of true. I mean, you sit down, you have tenacity with it and you keep going, but it's going to be hard. Like it's still hard. And I've been doing this for a number of years. So, and people I know that have been writing for 20 years still talk about how hard it is. But if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And so if you feel that passion inside to write a book, like by all means, write the book.
So how many books have you written?
So I have written 2 full manuscripts. None of them are out yet. So this is another thing about like the whole writing journey is that I did the thing. I got an agent and she's amazing and I love her. Thank you. You're clapping. But it didn't happen exactly like I thought it would. Like I sort of thought like, okay, if I have an agent, like everything else will fall into place. And as it turns out, there's a whole other path that happens, which is just like, it's really hard to sell books. It's really hard to get your book out there. And there's a lot of like loopholes to jump through and a lot of subjective opinions and everything. And I think there are writers who are way more talented than me that do not have agents currently because it's just a luck and it's a timing and being ready and all those things. And so nothing's out yet, but I'm working on it and I still plodding away every single day.
So I have to ask this question because honestly, this is the TikTok question.
Okay.
I asked the other question. I was like, that's the TikTok question. No, and that is, how did you get your agent?
How to get my agent. So I am a firm believer. I got her by pitching live at a conference, basically, is the short answer. But I really do strongly feel that anytime you have a full manuscript and you think you're ready to actually take it out there and like pitch somebody, and definitely don't pitch before you're ready, because that's a super common mistake and one that I made. Actually, it ended up working out, but it took me like a year and a half to convince her to take me on after I revised it several times in that time frame. So anyway, go to a conference, sign up to pitch agents when you're ready and get that face time, because there's really nothing that can compare to that. Like when you email a query, all they're seeing is your words, and it depends on how they're feeling that day, how busy they are, like what they're looking for in that moment. And there's so many things kind of working against you. And so if you can go and let your personality shine through and your passion for your project and, kind of like have a conversation with somebody, it's so much easier to get someone to sort of pay attention to you and give you a shot. And again, it took me a year and a half to get her to say yes. So it wasn't just an immediate like jump right in, but pitching at conferences, 2 thumbs up.
Which conferences did you pitch at?
Thrillerfest, which is my most favorite writing conference because I write thrillers, but also we're just a really wonderful group of humans who write about scary stuff and everyone is super cool.
That is amazing. All right. So that last question, which is, where can people find out more information about you and what is next?
What is next? So more information is my website, which is SamanthaSkal.com. That's SKAL. And all of it is there. You can also sign up for my email list and get some freebie downloads and stuff, which I've been working hard on, including 17 thriller twist ideas for your next novel, which I'm really proud of because my brain thinks like that. And what is next? Actually, what's next is Thrillerfest. So it's coming up in about a month for me, and I can't wait to go. I help run PitchFest for them. So the agent question is a wonderful one because we have a ton of agents just waiting to find the next big, great thriller. And it's a great time. And again, writing conferences are amazing. And if you've never gone to one before because you're nervous or something, like put those nerves aside, show up. Writers are amazing and so fun. And hopefully you'll find your people.
I want to thank you so much for being here with us today. I truly
Of course.
appreciate it. And you told us where we can find you. Can you tell us one more time?
Sure. SamanthaSkal.com.
There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for us over here, which is just a me today. Sorry, y'all. It's just me. But you can find out everything that your ladies are up to at www.andithoughladies.com. And while you're there, take a moment and look at our page. Which page is it? Oh, shoot. I forgot which page it was. I know. I lied. I'm thinking of the old website. Wow, I tripped over my own ending, y'all. While you're there at www.andithoughladies.com, take a moment, go down to the middle of the page, and you'll see the charities that we proudly support. We ask that you support them too. Give them a little bit of love. That could mean, just giving them information that you have, or getting your hands dirty and getting involved. One of our charities, that literally means flying to Ethiopia and building orphanages. So it doesn't have to just be money. And we thank you in advance for that. Remember that wisdom is all around you if you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona and the Missing Jade. Oh yeah, thanks for listening.